Okay. So what I want to talk about today is something that you guys have heard. So I guarantee you've heard the term before. All right. But you didn't know what it was. And so, being Conspiracy University, this is PhD level conspiracy talk. Meaning that when you come here for high level conspiracy talk. This is not baby conspiracy talk. So, we have to start at the educational phase, right? Who knows what the Flexner Report is? Who's heard the term Flexner Report? All right. Who's heard about the Flexner Report?
I
Nah,
haven't. I
watching.
was really wondering what this was going to be about.
All right. Um, let me give you guys some information. This is my favorite thing to do. I like bringing information to the family. Okay. The Flexner Report is a book-length landmark report of medical education in the United States and Canada, written by Abraham Flexner and published in 1910 under the aegis of the Carnegie Foundation. So, just so you know, Abraham Flexner was homeboys with the Rockefellers and funded by the Carnegie Foundation. These are your billionaires, your robber barons. Okay? So in 1910, he did a report. Flexner not only described the state of medical education in North America, but he also gave detailed descriptions of the medical schools that were operating at the time. He provided both criticisms and recommendations for improvements. Remember that word, improvements of medical education in the United States. Many aspects of present day American medical professional stem from the Flexner Report and its aftermath. While it had many positive impacts on the American education, the Flexner Report has been criticized for introducing policies that encourage systematic racism and sexism. All right. The report, also called Carnegie Foundation Bulletin Number 4, called on the American medical schools to enact higher admission and graduation standards and to adhere strictly to the protocols of mainstream science principles in their teachings. Y'all catch that? I'm going to say it again. All right. Um, it called on uh, it called on medical schools to adhere strictly to the protocols of mainstream science principles in their teachings and research. The report talked about the need for revamping and centralizing medical institutions. All right, that's how you start to control shit. You centralize it, meaning that it's controlled from a central source, and you don't have to go to all these individual places to have them change shit. You can change things at the central location, and it fucking cascades down. All right. um, Many American medical schools fell short of the standards advocated in the Flexner Report, and subsequent to its publication, nearly half of such schools merged or were closed outright. All right. Um, so colleges for the education of various forms of alternative medicine, such as electrotherapy, were closed. Homeopathy, traditional osteopathy, eclectic medicine, physiomedicalism were derided, meaning that all that shit we be talking about how they marginalized that shit, it came from the Flexner Report. That's where it all started. The Flexner Report. This is the document that is essentially got rid of naturopathic medicine, homeopathic medicine, osteopathy, like all the alternative things that we talk about. Got it. This is what made them go away. Okay? This is the report that got rid of real health care. The report also concluded that there were too many medical schools in the United States and that too many doctors were being trained. A repercussion of the Flexner Report resulting from the closure or consolidation of university training was the closure of all but 2 black medical schools and the reversion of American universities to male only admitting programs to accommodate a smaller admission pool. So y'all know how motherfuckers be like, oh man, it's a shortage of doctors, we always need doctors. They're saying, oh, it was too many doctors at the time. It was too many people running around here knowing how to cure people, how to heal. And it's damn sure too many black people that's doctors. Too many black people running around here healing niggas. Right? And they definitely got rid of Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. They got rid of Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. Right? That was a real thing. In chapter 11, Flexner stressed that success of medical education reform and professionalization of medicine relied heavily on the effective legal and ethical functioning of state medical boards. This is how they control you. Where if you're not teaching what they want you to teach, then they take your license. However, he noted that these boards were failing in their mission, stalling progress, and allowing substandard medical practices to continue. By substandard, they mean, naturopathic, homeopathic, all that good stuff, thereby jeopardizing public health. The problem persists as a significant issue in the current practice of medicine in the United States. So, John D. Rockefeller got his homeboy, Abraham Flexner, to publish a paper saying that, funded by Andrew Carnegie, right, to publish a paper saying that all the alternative medicines, things that we call alternative medicines now, that at the time were the mainstream medical practice. That all of that shit was bullshit and needed to be closed down, and that the allopathic medicine, which is what's created now, that's what needs to be perpetuated and supported and taught in medical schools. Okay, this is where all this shit came from. Your current medical system that you have right now, the thing that we talk about is so trash. All that shit comes from the Flexner Report. Okay. All right. So let's look at some of the recommended changes in the Flexner Report. Let's look at some of these recommended changes. All right. Hold on. Let me take a swig of my water. All right. Recommended changes. To help with the transition and change the minds of other doctors and scientists, J.D. Rockefeller gave millions to colleges, hospitals, and founded a philanthropic group called the General Education Board. Y'all hear it? J.D. Rockefeller funded your medical schools and your hospitals. That's why he became the boss of medicine. So remember, he also owned the pharmaceutical companies that was making fucking the medicines, quote unquote. And so by funding the medical schools, he had sway over what they taught, which was how to prescribe drugs. All right. In the 19th century, it was relatively easy to not only receive a medical education, but also to start a medical school. When Flexner researched his report, many American medical schools were small proprietary trade schools owned by one or more doctors, unaffiliated with a college or university, and run to make a profit. A degree was typically awarded after only 2 years of study, with laboratory work and dissection optional. Many of the instructors were local doctors teaching part time. There were very few full time professors dedicated to medical education. Medical schools did not receive funding, and their only money came from their students' tuitions. Regulation of the medical profession by state governments was minimal and or non-existent. American doctors varied enormously in their scientific understanding of human physiology, and the word quack was in common use. Flexner carefully examined the situation using the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine as the ideal medical school. Oh my God. He issued the following recommendations. So these are some of the recommendations. Reduce both the number of medical schools from 155 to 31. So he wanted to reduce the number of medical schools by a fifth, or to a fifth, I'm sorry. 155 down to 31 is one fifth. Okay. Increase prerequisites to enter medical training. Train physicians to practice in scientific manner and engage in medical uh, faculty and research. Give medical schools control of clinical instructions in hospitals. Hire trained full-time medical education staff. Grant medical schools increase funding. Strengthen state regulations of medical licensure. Now, on the face, a lot of these things sound like, all right, that's not bad. The problem is that he was corrupting the process and bending it to his will. He wanted doctors to start prescribing drugs and not herbs. He wanted his petroleum based drugs to be understood and prescribed by doctors. That's what this is all about. All right. So that was a list of his um, his recommendations. Let's look at some of the other things that was in the Flexner report. Okay. Let's see. Um, he says, so this is part of the report. In 1906, the worst of the Chicago schools, a school with no entrance requirement, no laboratory teaching, no hospital connection, made before state boards, the best record attained by any Chicago school that year. This school, essentially the same the same then as now, has only recently been declared not in good standing with the state board in Illinois. Everywhere in Canada and the United States, wretched institutions refute criticisms by pointing to their successful state board records. Let's see. The power that validates the diploma with its license must have the strength to protect its issues against either debasement or infringement. So in this, he's trying to say, hey, um, we have to make it where people respect the degrees and the medical license. And the only way we can do that is by getting people um, to agree that what we're saying is what should be happening. And then people have to learn that the allopathic medical path is the way to go. All right. Let's see. So I'm reading about the Flexner Report if you just got here. All right. So the Flexner Report is a report that essentially um, made what we call the fields of alternative medicine not the mainstream. Okay. Um, Flexner advocated for the closing of all but two historically black medical schools. As a result, only Howard University, College of Medicine, and Meharry Medical College were left open, while five other schools were closed. Flexner emphasized his view that black doctors should treat only black patients and should play roles subservient to those of white physicians. Flexner promoted the idea that African American medical students should be trained in hygiene rather than surgery and be employed as sanitarians with a primary role to protect white Americans from disease, Flexner stated in his report. Did y'all catch that? Let me read from y'all. So let's read some of this. This is what he wrote in the Flexner report right here. A well-taught Negro sanitarian will be immensely useful. An essentially untrained Negro wearing an MD degree is dangerous. What the fuck? Hey yo. All right. Um Furthermore, along with his adherence to germ theory, and so anybody that's been around here knows what germ theory is, right? So germ theory is the idea that disease is caused by germs, as opposed to terrain theory, which says that because the terrain is dirty, meaning your body, um, that's what's causing your body to react. Yeah, AB, I agree. Germ theory is a huge fucking fraud. Flexner argued that if not properly trained and treated, African Americans pose a health threat to middle and upper class whites. Flexner argued that African American physicians should be educated in order to stop the transmission of disease among African Americans and to prevent the contamination of white people from those same diseases. Bruh. All right. So this is all in the Flexner report, guys.
You notice how they switch from Negro to African American. That's very
I do.
okay. You know what we're
Yeah,
dealing with.
in the report it says in the report it says Negro, but the person writing it says African American, right? So at this time we were referred to as Negroes. All right. So this is what he says: the practice of the Negro doctor will be limited to his own race, which in turn will be cared for by wait hold on, which in its turn will be cared for better by Negro physicians than by poor white ones. But the physical well-being of the Negro is not only of moment to the Negro himself. 10 million of them live in close contact with 60 million whites. Not only does the Negro himself suffer from hookworm and tuberculosis, but he communicates them to his white neighbors. Precisely as the ignorant and unfortunate white contaminates himself, self protection, not less than humanity, offers weighty counsel in this matter. Self interest seconds philanthropy. The Negro must be educated not only for his sake, but for ours. He is, as far as the human eye can see, a permanent factor in the nation. Why, thank you. What the fuck? Hey, fucking yo. Flexner is wild. Flexner is fucking wild. Know what I'm saying? All right, let's see. <clears throat> Um, 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 if I let me see what else I want to read for y'all. Uh, da, 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 not admitted. It says the closure of 5 schools. And the fact that black students were not admitted to many U.S. medical schools for 50 years following the Flexner Report has contributed to the low numbers of American-born physicians of color, as the ramifications are still felt more than a century later.
So is that one article that you're reading from?
Yeah, this is um the this is the Flexner Report.
So in it, they stated Negro,
Yeah, that's how.
African American,
No,
Black,
no, 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 no,
and
no.
colored.
So in the Flexner Report, it was always Negroes, not African Americans. He always in Flexner he always reported
But
all.
whatever this
Yeah,
this
whatever.
thing is
Yeah,
reading
the thing I'm reading from
you,
is using the word African American, not Negroes.
and Black, and you just said colored.
Facts. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. The impact on alternative medicine. When Flexner researched his report, modern medicine faced vigorous competition from several quarters, including osteopathic, osteopathic medicine, chiropractic medicine, electrotherapy, electric medicine, naturopathy, and homeopathy. Flexner clearly doubted the scientific validity of all forms of medicine other than that based in scientific research. So that's called allopathic medicine. So when they say based on scientific research, they're talking about allopathic medicine, which is based on germ theory, right? Which is false, and which seeks to give you a medicine, right? A petroleum based fucking medical medicine. So that's what they're talking about when they say medicine based on scientific research. They're talking about the allopathic medicine that wants to give you fucking prescription drugs. All right. So Flexner clearly doubted the scientific validity of all forms of medicine other than that based on scientific research, deeming any approach to medicine that did not advocate the use of treatments such as vaccines to prevent and cure illnesses as tantamount to quackery and charlatanism. Right there. You get it? So he wants vaccines. Medical schools that offer training in various disciplines such as electromagnetic field therapy, phototherapy, eclectic medicine, physiomedicalism, naturopathy, and homeopathy were told either drop these courses from their curriculum or lose their accreditation and underwriting support. So all the natural ways to cure yourself got stomped out of medical schools. All the natural ways of healing, all the real healthcare got stomped out of medical schools. Otherwise, they were going to get their funding pulled and they're probably going to have to close. And so anybody talking about any of these things after that was considered a fucking quack. All right. That's how it became quackery today. If when you get sick and somebody be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to a naturopathic doctor or homeopathic, people are like, oh, dude, that's quackery. What are you doing? That shit fake. That shit ain't real. Not knowing that was medicine. That was the shit that was keeping people healthy and alive for a very long time. Until John D. Rockefeller paid his homeboy to come and write a report saying that that shit should go away. And threatening medical schools to drop it. It says a few schools resisted for a time, but eventually for eventually most schools for alternative medicine complied with the report or shut their doors. Okay. It says While almost all alternative medical schools listed in the Flexner Report were closed, the American Osteopathic Association brought a number of osteopathic medical schools into compliance with Flexner's recommendations to produce evidence-based approach to practice. Today, the curriculum of a DO and an MD awarding medical schools are now nearly identical. The chief difference being the additional instruction in osteopathic schools. So even the osteopathic schools today had to get rid of a lot of the shit that they were teaching. Right? And so when people like us come along and say, hey, yo, you know, there's a better way to take care of your body, people looking at us like we grew a third fucking head. Know what I'm saying? When you come along and say, yo, you know, there's a way that you can cure yourself without taking vaccines and pills and shit, people think you're fucking crazy. Not knowing that this is the way that they cured people for fucking thousands of years. Thousands of years. They cured people using natural ways. And electroculture. The electrofield therapy is dope. All right? So those other medical practices talk more about how the body works. Allopathic medicine does not concern itself with how the body works. All right? So that's essentially the Flexner Report. That's how we got here in terms of our medical establishment. The hospitals that you know, the doctor's offices you know, the germ theory idea, the idea that you need vaccines or that prescription drugs are good for you. All of that is a function of the Flexner Report. All right. So what I wanted to do in light of us looking at the Flexner Report, let's look at some of my favorite alternative doctors and some of the stuff they talk about. Right. So the first thing, it's a couple things I wanted to look at. So I got a couple clips, right? A couple of them are long, right? Oh, here real quick. This is a gentleman on Joe Rogan. This was him talking about the Flexner Report. So I just kind of went through the Flexner Report with you guys, but this is the guy on Joe Rogan talking about the Flexner Report.
Oh my God, this is all a bought and paid for system to promote profit. And
yeah, I think Jamal talked a little bit about this, but I think it's so important because nobody realizes this. Is I think a lot of people listening to us years ago, it's just like, this sounds conspiratorial. And it's just like, what actually happened? And there's a couple like really important dates that happened that are historical that I think like set this structure really intentionally. The first was 1909, the Flexner Report. So literally John D. Rockefeller's personal lawyer wrote the report for Congress that basically set the standard that's the standard today for medical education. And it literally says in the binding guidelines that holistic health and nutrition and anything about interconnectedness of the body is pseudoscience. It says we need to name the condition and cut it out or prescribe it.
And what year is this?
1909.
So they're still going by the recommendations of 1909.
We still follow the Flexner Report.
A policy. I mean, and we could get to policies, but like rescinding the Flexner Report and having updated scientific education and standard of care guidelines based on what we've learned since 1909 about the majesty of the interconnectedness of our body is a really good first start, because we're binded under a law, just demonstrably, just like, again, not conspiratorial. John D. Rockefeller's personal lawyer wrote this report. Why? Because John D. Rockefeller is the father of the pharmaceutical industry and created pharmaceuticals from byproducts of oil production. and was the first investor into Johns Hopkins and other major medical schools, University of Chicago, and started the modern education program for health. There were some big issues in the health, this is the Wild West, but he created Johns Hopkins and the standard of residency training as a way to silo diseases very intentionally and then prescribe his products and interventions as the top pharmaceutical maker. And the medical schools that he created were basically a distribution system to him. Okay, so you get to World War II. Up until World War II, around that time, the 1950s, 1960s, I would argue almost any medical miracle you can think of or any listener can think of was created before that time. You know, it's all acute situations, emergency surgical procedures, sanitation procedures, antibiotics to make an infection not deadly. Almost every medical miracle we can think of was something that was going to kill you right away, infectious disease. And then you take the pill or take the treatment for a finite period of time and you stop it, or do the surgery quickly and you're cured. Those are medical miracles. And we had a lot of good things happen up until World War II. Very intentionally, the medical industry saw the birth control pill in the late 1950s, 1960s. And the birth control pill was the first pill in world history that people took for longer than a couple weeks. It was the first pill ever that is like, oh, interesting. You can actually convince someone to take a pill for years, for almost most of their life, recurring revenue. And there was a huge emphasis of the medical industry to take the trust engendered up until 1960. RFK talks about this. We didn't spend money on chronic disease management. All medicine was acute issues. Chronic disease, diabetes, obesity, that was outside the doctor's office. They saw that you could medicalize chronic conditions. Today, 90 to 95% of spending is on chronic conditions. So what do? In the 1970s, literally the Sackler family, their grandkids did the opioids. Their forebears created Valium. And 30% of women in the United States in the 1970s were on Valium. Time Magazine, Valium Nation, Mommy's Little Helper.
Yeah.
So we started creating all these psychiatric conditions. We started medicalizing heart disease. We started medicalizing all these type 2 diabetes, started creating academic research totally funded by the pharmaceutical industry, saying that type 2 diabetes isn't reversible, that it's basically genetic, heart disease, all these things, and started pilling them. Then what happened to food? Chronic disease wasn't that big of a deal in the 1970s, 1980s. You look at the graph of all chronic conditions, there's just a sharp turn in the 1980s. It's literally almost to the year of the Surgeon General report saying smoking wasn't great. So the second that report came out, Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds were two of the largest companies in the world. It wasn't like Microsoft and Google on the top companies list. It was like cigarette companies. Dopamine is a really good thing to sell, which the tech companies do now. And they used their cash files. And by 1990, the three largest M&A deals in American history, in world history, were cigarette companies buying food companies. So you had Nabisco bought by R.J. Reynolds, you had Kraft and U.S. Food and you see those graphs of all the food companies owned by like a couple companies. That was the cigarette companies. And they did two things very, very intentionally. They took over the institutions of trust to say ultra-processed food was healthy, and then they took their scientists and rigged the food itself to make it more addictive. Not to kill kids, but to make it more addictive. So you had that literal food pyramid, which said ultra-processed food is great, low-fat, carbs, base of the pyramid. That was constructed literally by the cigarette industry to promote their addictive products. And this weaponization of food, as I call it, it's not just like this conspiracy. Literally the cigarette industry, those two companies, Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds, were the two largest food producers in the United States. Like 50% of American food were created by cigarette companies in the 1990s. And they have got us addicted and weaponized this food, and all chronic conditions have just shot up. It's because that ultra-processed food, literally by tobacco industry scientists, hijacks our evolutionary biology. Again, you can't overeat grass-fed steak, but these food, with scientists much smarter than any of us, that's what they're doing. They're shutting off our satiety signals. The byproduct of this cheap addictive food, which we don't even have research for yet, is that it's sprayed with all these chemicals. It's sprayed with 10,000 chemicals that are allowed in the United States when only 400 are allowed in Europe. All these chemicals to make the food addictive, to make the food cheap, to do the monocropping. And that food is absolutely, and we don't need to wait for the research on this, these chemicals, these neurotoxins are destroying ourselves, destroying our microbiome in ways we don't fully understand. So I just want to make clear to everyone, like this has happened like very intentionally. And it can be undone pretty quickly too, but we have to realize this isn't a conspiracy. It's true corruption that happened deliberately.
So it was a lot in that clip, right? So essentially, he talked about the Flexner Report and Rockefeller, the takeover of medicine, which we already talked about him funding hospitals and medical schools, right? And to train doctors to prescribe his medicines, but more importantly, the start of the pill fucking epidemic. So realizing that the money wasn't getting people to take pills for a long period of time. Curing them didn't get you the money. When you cure somebody, they bought your thing one time and then that was it. But if you could get them to have to keep buying your shit over and over again, that's where the control came in. And so they developed a whole system based on sickness management. All right. So we don't have a healthcare system. We have a sickness management system right now. Healthcare is what they had before with homeopathy and naturopathy and goddamn the osteopathy. That was healthcare. That was people teaching you how to be healthy. Right? What we have now is sickness management, where the goal is to keep you right in the middle between 100% healthy and dead. All right. So I'm gonna play for y'all an example of what a herbalist or naturopathic cure would be. Right. So this is something that the allopathic medical establishment would never fucking tell you.
You know, licorice root, since 2006, all governments have known the cure to these blood clots is in licorice root. It's also in cinnamon bark, and it's also in N-acetylcysteine, a supplement you can buy anywhere. These three things are published cures, and we're watching people around the world see their blood clotting issues reversed within days of taking these plants. But these are all published. I show you the research, and my goal here, the subtitle of my book is Restoring Health and Hope for Humanity. Why? You've all been lied to. You've either been injured in a hospital, lost a loved one in a hospital, you're still struggling to breathe, you're still struggling to have taste or smell, you're having issues with cancer with everybody you know now after the COVID shots. There's answers to all of them. You're just not going to get them primarily out of the mainstream media or through your medical professional because it's been censored from them. Give them a copy. I give you all the research back evidence. I even show you where to buy the tests medically and where to send them to get them processed. And once they come back in the book, I lay out for you every single cure that's published for these issues. And those aren't all.
So that's my man. Like he's my favorite right now because he be talking this shit. So that's Dr. Brian Ardis, Ardis. He be talking this shit. Right? So Dr. Ardis be talking this shit. So we're gonna listen to a few clips from Dr. Ardis. So he's got a thing though. Right? So he is in a rabbit hole. Right? He's actually in a couple rabbit holes. So at first he was in. So y'all know he was the one that first introduced the watch the water concept, where he talked about the COVID-19 pandemic being a result of snake venom, synthesized.
That's
snake.
the same dude?
That's him.
Oh, wow.
That's him. Right? He talked about the symptoms of COVID-19 being the result of synthesized proteins and peptides from cobra and from king cobra and crate snakes. All right. And so we're gonna listen to a few clips from him because he's been killing it recently. He's been fucking killing it. All right. So this is him talking about how snake venom is related to cancer.
Did you know that all of them have been published to cause rapid turbo cancers to form in any tissue in the human body if you swallow snake venom, inject snake venom, or put it on your skin? And they've known that since 1956. Oh, guess who discovered that? The National Cancer Institute paid scientists to figure that out in 1956. And everybody out there, I'm just going to tell you, in Australia, anybody out there who's ever had a loved one who was diagnosed with high blood pressure, put on a high blood pressure drug called an ACE inhibitor. If you were on lisinopril for any length of time and then were diagnosed with cancer, you were swallowing dried snake venom. And then you're going to end up in an oncologist's office 2 years later after your cardiologist gave you the snake venom to swallow every day to lower your blood pressure. You're going to develop cancer.
Killing it. So he gets busy on all the uses for snake venom and all the places that they've inserted that shit into the healthcare system or the sickness management system. Right? So he's got like an entire diatribe of the things that they do with snake venom. Right? There's another venom we was talking about too. I forgot. I played it for y'all a while ago. Shit. It'll come to me, no worries. But his newest thing that he's going crazy on now. Does he reference his sources with the snake? Oh, he does. No. He gets busy with the talking about the snake venom and with the COVID shit. He did a whole presentation showing where it came from and how they developed it, the companies, the parent companies, like all of that shit. His name is Dr. Brian Ardis, Ardis. All right. Which say he won't admit that that viruses don't exist. I've never heard him talk about germ theory. So you know what I found, B? So I actually interviewed a guy when we first started the podcast. I interviewed a guy, and we were talking about the Bible, right? He was a biblical scholar. It was my man, what's my man's name? Ralph Ellis. And so Ralph had a lot of information, right? He was a biblical scholar. And I asked him at the end of the interview, I was like, yo, you ever look into flat earth? And he said to me, he was like, look, I get enough, he's like, I got enough problems trying to tell people the information that I tell them that I know. Like he's like, I'm a scholar. I've been digging into this. He's like, I get enough pushback saying what I'm saying. He's like, I can't imagine the problems I would have if I added the fact that the earth was flat on top of it. Meaning he didn't even want to dig into it because if he dug into it and it was true, he would have to talk about it and it would be like, it would cause him problems. So I say that to say, just because he doesn't outwardly talk about germ theory versus terrain theory, one doesn't mean he doesn't know it, right? Maybe he just decided that, it's more important to talk about this as opposed to try to convince people what the model is. Or two, he doesn't have time to look into it because, again, he might have to start talking about something else, right? So I don't automatically
Okay,
dismiss people.
I'll jump in whenever you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead. What was you gonna
Okay, well, I can get your gist on that whole thing where, sometimes people stay in their lane, right? What I didn't like about this guy who I've watched from the beginning because he was, freaking out about the shots when I was, so I was just like, "Oh, I checked him out. Then there was this big panic he was trying to cause by saying that there was snake venom in the water, which is a little off, out of pocket, okay, from what was really
why do
going
you
on.
why do you think it's out of pocket?
Well, because number one, um, there there would be masses of people like having reactions to this kind of venom in a water supply.
All right.
It wouldn't be necessarily like my theory or model of what happened with COVID and because you were saying he was saying COVID had something to do with snake venom.
All right. So here, let me look. So
Okay, let's clarify.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So check this out, right? So he wasn't saying that it was snake venom in the water, right? So the name of his talk was called Watch the Water, right? So what he was saying was that they were testing the water for COVID-19, right? Which they were. There was fucking articles about how
Right, the wastewater.
they
They were
were
testing the
testing
wastewater.
wastewater, right, for COVID-19. What he was saying was that the symptoms of COVID-19 were caused by synthesized proteins and peptides from king cobra and crate snakes.
And they were put in the water supply. Yes?
No, so
No.
no. He didn't say they were put in the water supply, right? I think they were put in the water supply, right? But it's not the water supply as you think, right? So, because one of the homies here, he works in water treatment, and so when we were doing this, when we did this show a couple years ago during COVID, he was like, "Dude, there would be too much." Like he's like the water supply is way too much. The amount of poison that you would have to manufacture to put in like the water supply is way too much, right? And so then I started thinking, I don't know where you were, but like I was out during COVID. Like, cause I still had to go to gyms and like there was tournaments and all this shit. And so I would be out. And what I noticed was that um they all the public water fountains were cut off and taped off and they weren't letting people use them, right? But what they would do is they would all have bottled water that you could buy. And so um it occurred to me that it'd be way easier to poison bottled water than tap water, right? So if and this is possible, right? So they
Okay, can
take
I stop you here?
go ahead.
Just because all right, so the symptoms of COVID we were told are, cold flu symptoms,
No, no, no,
right?
no, 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 no. No. That
Okay.
wasn't the start. The first symptoms of COVID were loss of taste, loss of smell, shortness of breath. The cold and flu symptoms came later as
Well,
they
that was
folded
for
in.
asymptomatic people,
No, 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 that's a symptom.
mostly.
No, that's the
Um,
symptom.
for the people that became quote unquote asymptomatic, some people claim to just lose their smell and taste, just
So
to,
no, 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 no. Wait, wait.
yeah.
You're not asymptomatic if you. That's a symptom. So if you
Okay,
lose your
fair
taste
enough,
and smell,
fair enough.
that's a symptom. You're
Right,
not
but you don't have flu
asymptomatic.
symptoms, right?
Right. No, but no, you gotta listen. Gotta check it out.
Okay,
Gotta
I'm
check it out.
listening.
So the cold and flu came when they when we entered cold and flu season and they started expanding the symptoms. So now they could say that anybody that had a cold or a flu, it was COVID. But that's not the start, right? The start was loss of taste, loss of smell. And both of those, so it's loss of taste, loss of smell, and shortness of breath, and all of that can be accounted for using proteins and peptides from snake venom.
Okay. Yes. Okay. But to interject, those symptoms could come about from other causes as well.
I agree.
Okay.
Wait. Which
Yeah.
ones?
So,
Hold on. Wait.
well,
The loss of taste, loss
radiation
of
and,
smell,
yep, radiation
and shortness
and
of breath.
EMF. Yep.
Okay.
Radiation and EMF sickness
Hmm.
also has that. So I'm not ruling out the snake venom. The more I talk to you, I'm like, if you've thought it out,
I
maybe more than
have.
I have, I'm down to listen. But
Yeah.
to pigeonhole it and say that's the only thing that makes those symptoms of the
No, so
smell
he
and
never said
taste.
that.
Okay. All right. As
Yeah.
long as we're clear on that. Okay.
Yeah. So no, he
Carry
never
on.
said that. So yeah, the idea that the rollout of 5G caused the a kind of radiation sickness. Yeah, okay, I'm with it. I got no problem with that. And they would use those symptoms as COVID-19 symptoms as well. Okay, I'm with you, right? But for the masses, like for places that they couldn't for because they needed a certain amount of shit to happen. And so to poison bottled water made perfect sense. And it also made sense as to why people in close contact with each other, one person would get it, another one wouldn't, even though they sleep in the same bed, living in the same
Okay.
house. Get
All
what I'm
right.
saying?
So to say, to say that bottles of water have a certain poison, yeah, of course they do, because bottled water isn't regulated. Um, I guess there's more eyes on the water supply coming out of our faucets with the whole infrastructure there. But yeah, there's no regulations on water. But the thing is that the water is shit anyway in the bottles. And the toxicity can come from many different sources. Um, Maybe the snake venom, I see it as a story. It's an intriguing story to deflect even away from just the heavy metals and the basics of the terrain model, which is
Did you
toxins
know?
in, toxins out, you know?
Did you see the story that they did in France about how smokers weren't getting COVID?
Yeah.
So the reason for
Oh,
that,
right, because he's pushing the nicotine, right? Which,
the
yeah,
nicotine.
and I can appreciate that. I'm a smoker, but there's also we have receptors, and
Your
there's
nicotinic
the
receptors, right?
right, right. So the nicotinic acid is what's being recepted, and that happens when tobacco is burned, right? Um, there's a version of that nicotinic thing, but there's also a supplement. We get it in our food that nic
Certain foods
that
have nicotine, like
that
dark leafy
yeah,
greens and all that shit. That's true,
yes, yes. So
right? But that shit goes to your stomach. It doesn't
him
go straight
pushing
to your head.
smoking on people or nicotine
He
patches.
wasn't pushing smoking on
Oh
people.
no, no, but no, but the nicotine patches and saying that, but the nicotine really only happens when it's it's uh it's a big web, and I'm just showing up on stage to say I didn't really get
I
into
know you
that
don't
web.
like them.
Yeah, I'm just and I
Yeah,
just appreciate this discourse because germ theory is
I know.
my
Dude, I love germ
nemesis.
theory. You know that.
And
I
yeah,
fucks with germ
yeah.
theory. I mean, terrain theory. Germ
Terrain
theory is
model.
shit.
It's
Yeah,
terrain model. It's not a
yeah,
theory
terrain.
anymore.
That's
It's
fine. I
it's
got you.
actually a model at this point.
You're
You
right.
know what I
All right.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I fuck with terrain model and germ theory is ass. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
but the
But there's
the thing,
nuances. Yeah.
you know what though? So what really fucking kicked it off for me, or what like it clicked for me, was listening to him talk about the proteins and peptides being synthesized from the snake venom, and then you know how they put shit in movies all fucking time, we predictive programming and all that shit. So as soon as when he was talking about this shit, instantly Batman is one of my favorite movies, like the first Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. You remember how the
Oh
Joker
yeah.
poisoned all them fucking people,
Yeah. Mhm.
right?
Classic.
He poisoned their everyday products. where it was like, yo, one thing won't do it, but a combination of this will do it and this will do it, and people didn't know where the fuck it was coming from.
Yeah, there's a lot of
That shit,
disclosure back then. You know, what
yo,
about the Incredible Shrinking Woman? Remember that
right.
one?
Mm-hmm. I do. Right? I do.
Yeah,
But
she
yeah, no,
started
I fucks
shrinking
with him.
because of all the cleaning products and, you know, all the cleaning products and all the products around, like the modern woman. It was just making her
Mm-hmm.
fucking sick. And she started to shrink, which basically was a art piece on society.
Exactly. But yeah, so dude, poisoning bottle. So I think about you're old enough to remember drinking out of a fucking water
You calling
hose,
me old?
right? No, but I remember it, so I know you do. You're old enough to remember drinking out of a water hose. How, dude? When I first saw like bottled water, I was like, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life." Who the fuck would pay for water? It's free. It's
I
everywhere. Water
remember, yeah,
fountains are all over the place.
when it was,
The
I said to my friends
demonization,
back then, like, imagine we have to pay for water, you know, because it came out of the faucet and we just drank it, and or the hose or whatever.
bruh, the demonization of public water was a master stroke because it enabled them to figure out way, like to get people to buy the poison. And so when COVID happened and they cut off the public water and they only sold you bottled water, I was like, ooh. And then the Nestle CEO who's like, yeah, water isn't a public right. Like Nestle is evil as fuck, right? And I only saw Nestle water and Coca-Cola water. You saw Dasani and Aquafina, two companies that are on bullshit. I was like, oh my God.
Okay, yeah.
They
So
poisoned the
basically,
fucking water.
engineered water, and water. But the beautiful thing is that we know that water is conscious. Water can hold consciousness, and we can charge water. Um, Water gets charged in waterfalls or in like eddies and rivers, you know, how it's swirling around and flowing. Water can be recharged. And sure, it can be poisoned, but I think with human intention, divine, you know, intention, water can be transformed or transmuted, as simply as just saying that it is in that moment. So just you know, fighting back with the weapons we have. Uh, there's hope for water because there's so many experiments with water, like freezing water and having imprints of what the intention of the person that was freezing that water left, whether it was
Mhm.
like a photograph under their
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
slide.
what you're talking about, Doctor.
Yeah, yeah. Since then, there's been many more experiments with water being conscious, and that also plays into the terrain model because science likes to forget that our bodies communicate with each other on levels that aren't measured by modern science or conveniently not measured. And we're mostly water, so the water is really what's communicating with each other. And we have the power to destroy or to heal, you know. And so I think the more people know and are conscious about the power of water, and I love this conversation brought it to this, and the snake venom or whatever they're putting in the fucking water, which is out of our control. We can control the remedy, which is, you know, being your own
Gotcha.
doctor, right?
Yeah,
Looking
that's
at
fact.
that water as pure consciousness and that we imprint onto it.
Yep, I got you. Good shit. Um, so Miss Watts said Coca-Cola have a water brand. Yeah, Dasani. Dasani is a huge brand. It's every fucking where. Oh yeah, Cola. Good job. Smart water. Yep. Vitamin water. Yeah. Coke be on and all that shit. All right. Aha water by Coke. Yep. Yes. Coke owns water. So does Nestle. I think Pepsi owns Aquafina. Right. Um. So yeah, water is owned by the same motherfuckers that own the pop. Okay. Um. let's see. So, getting back to my man, Dr. Artist. So, B mentioned nicotine. So he's been talking. So he's just really started talking about nicotine really heavy. And so his discussions about nicotine took me back to when I was a kid, seeing my grandmother chew snuff. And then there was an old lady across the street, right? She chews snuff too. And then I got to thinking about all the old people in the South that chew tobacco, right? And then I remembered all the other things that the people in the South, especially black people in the South, right, that they did all the fucking time. That in through our modern lens, we're like, yo, why the fuck was they doing that? That shit was disgusting. Like, why? But the more I learned that the things that they were doing were for health purposes and was part of the reason that they lived so fucking long. And so hearing him talk about nicotine and the role of nicotine helps me understand exactly why tobacco and tobacco products were so prevalent, especially in the fucking South.
Nicotine because it's an addictive substance and it causes cancer. Well, unbeknownst to you, Laura Lynn, not only was this a cure for COVID-19, in fact, it was such a cure for COVID, I show in our presentations that a hospital in Wisconsin in 2021 had a whole floor of COVID-19 current smokers who were diagnosed with COVID, put on remdesivir, put on that hospital protocol for COVID. And then when 5 of the smokers died, a medical doctor said, well, it's being reported around the world that smokers are the least likely to die from COVID. I wonder what will happen since these people are in a hospital and you're not allowed to smoke while in the hospital and they're on a vent, so they can't smoke. This doctor said, I wonder what happens if I put a nicotine patch on all of them. Laura Lynn, 100% of all of them were cured of COVID and went home in 5 days. That was in 2021. Nicotine was always the antidote. It always was the cure. But to shock your audiences, this is why everybody's asking me to fly around the world and educate them on this. In Canada, 1 month after my Watch the Water documentary came out with Stu Peters, Trudeau and your buddies there decided they were going to start banning either vaping e-cigarettes or attacking cigarettes in general and tobacco products. In fact, Canada wasn't alone. Within 1 month of my documentary, I listed nicotine was the antidote at the credits. The United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and America, all in unison in the same week, said by the year 2030, we're going to make nicotine and tobacco products commercially unavailable to our citizens. We will ban these agents from those countries. And there's a reason why they are doing this. Would it shock you, Laura Lynn, if I told you that nicotine by itself has been proven to reverse, prevent, and even cure people with Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, ulcerative colitis, inflammation of your bowel diseases, arthritis, nicotine could be a cure for. How many doctors have told your senior citizens with arthritis, you should wear a nicotine patch or chew nicotine gum or dip snuff? Have they ever told you that? It's amazing. They have not told you that. And there's a reason why they haven't told you. They just keep selling you drugs and prescribing you drugs because they don't want you to know that inside of the tobacco plant, and not only in the tobacco plant, is a nutrient called nicotine. It has also been proven, Laura Lynn, that nicotine by itself can reverse and dissolve brain tumors called glioblastomas in less than 72 hours. And those studies were conducted during the pandemic. I found that interesting. Why are y'all studying nicotine and turbo cancers and reversing them with nicotine during COVID while everybody's getting these vaccines? All right. Did you know also that nicotine patch studies have been done with autistic adults and children? And they found that their violent and antisocial behaviors completely remit in 6 days or less. Isn't that amazing? Well, how many people are prescribing nicotine patches to their autistic patients? None that I've ever heard of. So I continue to show research surrounding all of these various topics and how it's been shown beneficial. You know what? I was in a car being driven to an event this weekend. in Tennessee, and the driver, who also opened his home for a VIP dinner, decides to tell me that he's been a type 1 diabetic for years, is insulin resistant, until he saw my presentations on how nicotine has helped cure people of type 1 diabetes, which is what he had. And he put nicotine patches on him, and he is no longer insulin resistant, and his insulin is now breaking down his blood sugar, and he's reducing his diabetes medications just in a couple weeks. So I want to make sure, before everybody runs away from this topic and says, I cannot listen to nicotine, it's addictive and I'm scared of it, I just need to ask you, Laura Lynn, did you know that nicotine is second highest in content by weight inside of eggplants, second only to tobacco plants? Did you know that the third highest containing nicotine vegetable on earth is tomatoes? Every red tomato that you've ever eaten has nicotine in it.
Wow.
Did you know that green tomatoes have 10 times the amount of nicotine as red tomatoes? Did you know that bell peppers, cauliflower, celery, zucchini, all nightshade vegetables have tons of nicotine? In fact, that whole group of foods, nightshade vegetables, has the second highest amount of nicotine, only second to tobacco.
Wow.
Now, this one should shock you. Have you ever eaten a potato chip or mashed potatoes or a baked potato or French fries, Laura Lynn?
I have.
Did you know that white potatoes have nicotine in them? And every time you've eaten potatoes, you're sucking down nicotine. Now, my question for you is why do they continue to make us so scared of nicotine and tobacco if it's in our veggies? And I'm going to go ahead and explain this to you. If it is so in Canada, as it is in the United States, when someone is diagnosed with an inflammatory condition, the medical doctors are trained to tell their patient, Mary, you have something that ends with itis, colitis, pancreatitis, arthritis. You have something with itis on it, meaning you're in pain. And then they will say to you, we need to put you on steroids to suppress your inflammation. And then they will say this in the United States, Mary, since you've been diagnosed now with arthritis, you have to avoid all nightshade vegetables in the future. Now, the truth is, if they actually ate those vegetables, the nightshade veggies, nicotine in those plants has more anti-inflammatory properties than pro-inflammatory properties by a lot. So if you actually consume the nightshade vegetables, organic version is best. It will have the highest amounts of nicotine. And I just want to ask you all, how come the world's never told you that nicotine's in all those other veggies? How come they only continue to tell you it's in tobacco? And then how come they keep scaring you from using anything that has an addictive substance called nicotine? Well, just so you know, if nicotine's addictive, you would be addicted to eggplants. And if you ever ate an eggplant, you would wake up with night sweats thinking you need more eggplants. And how many of you have ever heard your boss ever be asked by another coworker for a celery break? Because you're just too addicted to celery. You just can't get over the nicotine addiction in your celery and cauliflower and zucchini. The truth is, nicotine is not addictive. You're never going to be addicted to those vegetables. You cannot be addicted to it. Harvard, the University of Harvard, figured out in 2015 and published a study online, peer-reviewed and published. And I show the whole world this over and over and over. They confirmed in 2015 and published that nicotine alone does not make tobacco products addictive at all. In fact, another scientist came forward in 2012 and said, actually, nicotine makes humans and all mammals aversive to nicotine, and we want to push it away. We don't want it. It's actually a deterrent. This is why they put nicotine, literally powdered nicotine, on plants to keep bugs and insects from coming around the plants. Nicotine is a deterrent. It is an irritant. Nobody wants it. So Harvard read 7 million pages in 2015 of tobacco giant documents to find out how did they make tobacco products addictive if it's not nicotine. This was just 5 years before the pandemic. And they found out that the FDA has approved since the 1970s, all tobacco giants can add 599 man-made chemicals to their tobacco products, of which 15 are called pyrazines And Harvard confirmed in 2015 these man-made chemicals called pyrazines are why tobacco products are addictive. It's not nicotine. And then even said in their paper, FDA, we expect you should start regulating pyrazines over nicotine. So this is the level of lying, pervasive lying, propaganda you've seen around tobacco since 1994, leading up to the pandemic in 2020. They needed the majority of people in the world not using tobacco products because they have the highest amount of nicotine. And they knew the whole goal for the pandemic was to get an injection in everybody's arm around the world. And the only way people would fall for that crap is if they got sick. Well, if everybody was using tobacco products, the majority of human beings weren't going to get sick from their spike protein venom-laced virus, they wanted to call it, because nicotine was the antidote to those spike protein / venom proteins. So this was the protective measure there. For the rest of my life, I will wear a 3 milligram nicotine patch because not only does nicotine cure those diseases,
Yep.
I've actually learned over the last 2 years that every virus on Earth is beaten with nicotine. And I'm talking influenza. I'm talking coronaviruses, measles virus, rabies virus, polio virus, HIV virus. They're all scientific studies confirming that nicotine is the antidote to all of those. You know what I
Holy
find
smokes.
interesting?
Yeah.
When you get to rabies and HIV, they actually say that rabies virus and HIV has a spike protein on it. And every scientist writes it is homologous to snake venom proteins. And nicotine's the antidote to those also.
I knew you was gonna like that, B. I knew you was gonna like that. That was funny. Um. All right. So for those that don't know why B's upset, is because again, it's he's talking to people who only understand germ theory. B. If you're like, at some point you gotta talk people's
No,
language. Hold on,
no,
wait.
that's where he loses
At
me.
some point, B, you gotta understand. You gotta
Shout
talk
out to the
people's
contrarians, Lionel.
you gotta talk people's languages, right? Um, you gotta give it to people in ways that they understand it. You know what I mean? You
Not
got
when, I mean, he could have part out.
say it again.
If he left that part out, he could have left that whole part out. Wait, I got the red
Yeah.
bar.
So again, I don't even know if
Can you hear
he's
me?
dug into it. Like I don't know if he's dug into terrain
I do
theory.
know. I'm telling you, he
You
is
saying what? You know he's
he is
dug into terrain
shilling.
theory? Hey, if he's chilling,
Clearly,
he
he
ain't doing
has
a very
not.
good job. Oh,
And but
right, but
there's
that's the
people
point.
around. I mean, the
Hey,
community
is that her or
challenges
me?
these people, including RFK.
That's
Excuse
her.
me.
Oh,
Let me hold on.
okay, yeah.
All right. No, I
All
just
right,
put the Wi-Fi back on.
so hold on, guys. So
No,
for
see,
those that don't know what she's talking about,
just
hold on,
like RFK.
wait,
Okay.
hold on, wait. You're breaking up again. So for those that don't know what she's talking about, right? So she's talking about germ theory versus terrain theory, right? So um in germ theory, viruses, bacteria, fungus, like all these things are why you get sick, right? So when people are like, oh yeah, I caught a bug, right? So it's a virus that you caught that's making you sick. You know what I'm saying? Or it's a bacteria you caught that's making you sick. So that's germ theory, right? The fact of the matter is though, in terrain theory, like a terrain model, as she would say, there's no such thing as a virus. So that bacterias are real, fungus is real, but there's no viruses.
Can I give a little bit more of a spotlight on that quickly?
Sure.
Because the way that viruses are quote unquote proven are basically some mucus is taken from a sick person, and then they take that sample and they put it in like a tube or whatever with antibiotics, all kinds of. It's like a goop soup. They put blood from the heart of a baby cow. They put all kinds of weird toxins in there, and also monkey kidney cells, right? So they throw some monkey kidney cells, green monkey kidney cells, that are the cells that they watch. And then as they put these toxins in, the cells die. And when this happens, they call it a cytoplasmic event or whatever. I'm getting that wrong, but I'm trying to talk fast. So they say these cells die off, and then they take that sample. Wait, they want to see what they say killed the cells, whatever's showing up when they have to manipulate the sample again, and they freeze it so that they can put it into an electron microscope, and they have to slice it like a little sliver out of it, and then they can bounce electrons off of it and see shadows, and then they basically say they see something in a solid state. There's no mechanism of action there. It's just literally like a photograph of something they created in this goop soup, and then they call that a virus. They say that is what made that person sick. Okay, and you cannot take a sample from a sick person, put it directly under you even freeze it and put it directly under the same microscope, the electron microscope, and do the skip the process of all the poisons they put in that petri dish. They will not see anything that looks like that. They will not see any kind of whatever they're calling virus. So that's just a 101. Viruses don't exist. This is the method that is virology. And I've debated virologists on here, and that nobody can tell me why they put all this shit in there. They resort to insults and everything. So anyway, I'm dragging this out, but viruses don't exist. There is no evidence. There's also no evidence, like they can't take that thing and put it in somebody and make them sick. There has also been experiments where they've taken sick people's bodily fluids and put them in healthy people's bodily fluids. Nobody gets sick. So contagion is a bullshit lie. There's other things like electromagnetic frequencies and, like we said earlier, the water. All right, thanks.
Right. So, when I'm listening to people talk, I have to we got to take allowances that people they hear at the level of their understanding, right? So the things I can say to the people in this room right now, right, and get understanding from it is far different from what I would say to people who have who don't engage in the conversations that we have,
Okay, so
right?
you're saying
So
that Brian Artis doesn't think his audience would understand the no virus thing, or do you think he
so it's a
didn't
couple
go
things.
down that road? He just
So
thinks that HIV and all
so
polio and all of that.
yeah, so if I had to guess, I would say that somebody's told him about it, but he hasn't investigated it just because of the nature of the
I
conversations
don't
that
buy
he's
it.
in.
No.
Like he's
Mm-mm.
hold on.
Sorry.
So he's in conversations with people who are all over the place, right? Because he's all over the place. And speak like I'm somebody who's all over the place, and I know the people that talk to me. And so I know somebody said something to him about it. I don't know how far down the rabbit hole he's gone. And so it's one or two things. One of two things. Either um, he hasn't quite gone down the rabbit hole enough to say it in public, or two, he's decided, let me talk at the level of understanding because I'm already off the rails. And so I get it, right? Um, I think that the message is more important, that if you're sick, if you're having problems, if you're having these conditions, you need to look into nicotine, right? I think that's the message. And I think a lot of times when you're trying to get messages across to people, you have to do what's effective, right? And so being an effective communicator sometimes means you ain't got to tell them everything. Just tell them what they need to know, the important part.
Okay, so he's saying snake venom bad, nicotine good. Is that what he's saying, basically?
Um Facts. And that snake venom is in a bunch of places that you don't know it's in. And it's causing a bunch of problems that you don't know it's causing. Right? And that nicotine is not as bad as fucking they make you think it is. And it's in a bunch of places where you don't know it is. Right?
Okay,
And
I'll buy
so,
that.
I mean,
I'll buy that for a buck.
my girl. So I'm talking about, see, I knew communication was key, B. All right. So, um, I had one other clip I wanted to play from him, and I thought this was interesting because it's some shit I would do. Like he did some shit I would do. Get me? So this is the last clip I'm gonna play from my man Brian today, and it's about when he got poisoned, and I actually believe this, right? So he says he got poisoned. So I'm gonna let him tell y'all the story.
6 months ago, I broke out with psoriasis all over my feet and legs, and I've never had anything on my body ever as a rash. So I didn't call anybody. I didn't go to the ER. Oh, I also started having explosive diarrhea every hour for like
Ouch.
a whole month. It was crazy. So, and this rash, psoriatic rash, white plaque scales on red rashes on my feet going up my legs started happening. And I was like, well, that ain't normal. So, but what was interesting is I didn't call a dermatologist. I didn't even need to. Oh, just so y'all know, I don't have any of those symptoms anymore. I didn't have to go anywhere. I'll just tell you what I did. And this is exactly what I did. I went like this. Wow, that looks like every candida infection I've ever treated. So I'm going to go to my books. I'm going to go to my resources, and I'm going to go to my knowledge and my brain. What did I use to help clear up candida and yeast infections in all of my patients and my wife, Jane, years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And all I did was start taking that stuff and applying stuff topically, took it orally and topically. And after a month, nothing changed. Now, you have to understand, I know how the human body works. Mm-hmm. So I was really experimenting with myself. I just wanted to see whatever's happening to me. I wanted to know whatever's happening to me. For example, all of you at home, just listen to me, please, for a second. I knew it could have been one of three things. I either had candida or yeast, which is a fungus in my body, at a level that was now coming out of my skin. Or number two, I had parasites in my body that I wasn't aware of. Mm-hmm. Or number three, I had venom poisoning in my body that causes psoriatic rashes, hives, and explosive diarrhea. I knew it could be one of those three things. So instead of, which I know some of you in the audience would be like this, no, I want this crap to go away today. Treat me for all three. No, that wasn't me. I went just like this. All right, I'm going to treat it like it's fungal for a month, and I'm going to see if it goes away or if it even slows down. So I did it for a month, every day for a month, and never did it improve. In fact, it started getting worse and reaching up my calves and stuff. And the explosive diarrhea didn't change. So then a month later, 30 days later, I went like this. Okay, now I'm going to switch to a parasitic treatment, and I'm going to see what happens. So I took all parasitic stuff orally and put stuff topically on my feet. I would recommend 4. Not a joke. I even put ivermectin on my feet. If it was parasitic, ivermectin would have killed it topically. Did it help? Nope. It actually made it worse. So then I went like this. After a month, I was like, okay, we know it's not fungal. We know it's not parasitic. It must be venom. So this is what I did. I had food-grade hydrogen peroxide at home, and I started soaking my feet in it topically. Then I put it in capsules and in glasses of water and drank it. And I was doing that twice a day. I would drink it twice a day, then soak for 10 minutes at night. And then I took EDTA orally. And then I took, with the hydrogen peroxide, then I took apple pectin powder. And then I slapped on a nicotine patch every day. And do you know what, Rick? From day one, it started getting better. And by 14 days, it was 100% gone, and I've never had it returned. Mm-hmm. And from that information, I then wondered, how did they get this venom inside of me? Yes. Do you understand why I went through this process? I didn't want to just throw a whole bunch of crap at it and never know what it was. I was going to take it systematically so I could figure out what was the underlying cause of my symptoms. And then once I knew what it was, for example, if the fungal stuff cleared it up, let me just tell you guys what I would have done. If it started to clear up when I started treating myself for fungus, I would have then looked at my diet first and went, where am I eating fungus? Seriously. And I would look like this. Am I eating mushrooms, which is a fungus? Am I eating bread, which has yeast in it to make it rise, which is a fungus? Am I drinking wine or drinking beer, which I don't drink? Am I drinking any of those because they're fermented in yeast, which is a fungus? And then I would go like this. Am I eating any blue cheese? Anything, because blue cheese is mold. Am I putting fungus in me? That's what I would have done, and then I would have stopped eating that stuff, and it would have cleared up forevermore. I would have never worried about it ever again. If it was parasitic, and I took the parasite stuff and it started to die off, I would have been curious to know. This is not a joke what I would have done. If I saw in the first week all my symptoms were clearing, I would have stopped my products, and then I would have done a stool sample to find out what parasite is it specifically, and then I would know where it's coming from. Am I getting it from a pet? Am I getting it from water? Am I getting it from food I'm eating? I would know based on the stool test. And then I would figure that out forevermore, and I would never get those symptoms ever again because now I know what's happening to me when I'm eating that stuff. When I figured out it was venom, and because I knew it was venom because I use stuff that clears venom, then I wanted to know how in the world are they getting it inside of me? And my very first thought was, oh my God, I have this water delivery company that delivers water to my home for 6 years now. But 8 months ago, right before my symptoms started, the delivery guy for the company was supposed to, like normal, drop off 5 new bottles and take 5 empty bottles. Except for 8 months ago, a new delivery guy, first day on the job, didn't leave 5 when I got home. He left 28 of them. And we called the company, and the company had no record of 5 bottles being left. I mean, they didn't have record of 28 being left. Wow, I had enough water for like 6 months. Yeah, and I took that water after I cleared up all my symptoms, and I flew to Ohio with my wife to have the water tested at a clinic who has technology out of Europe to look for all kinds of poisons and toxins in water. And oh my God, in my reverse osmosis filtered delivered water, still in my house when I flew up there, the first thing populated out of the device of what was in my water was the drug remdesivir.
Oh my goodness.
The second thing in my reverse osmosis filtered water delivered to my home was arsenic poisoning.
Oh my
The
goodness.
third was barbiturate drug poisoning in the water. Do y'all know what barbiturates do in the water you drink? They have every side effect of delusions, hallucinations, schizophrenic tendencies, worsening depression, anxiety, and panic attacks. Those are the published side effects of barbiturate drugs. So for anybody out there who is wondering, why am I paranoid that something might be trying to kill me, attack me? Maybe people are hunting me down, or are people trying to take me out because I'm a conspiracy theorist. At the clinic in Ohio. Oh, just so y'all know, we'll wrap this up. In my water being delivered to my home by some random dude 8 months ago, dropped 28 bottles, and the company has no record of it. In that water is where remdesivir drug was in the water. Number 2, barbiturates were in the water. Arsenic was in the water, and 7 different venoms were in the water, including cobra venom, bungarotoxin from the crate snakes venom, conotoxin venoms, Chinese moccasin venom was in there. There's all kinds of crazy crap. Maclay's water snake venom was in it. And then they had the last ingredient that populated was weaponized E. coli bacteria was in my water. This finally explained to me my bowel issue. I was having explosive bowels, and the bacteria in the water I was drinking replicates these venoms. So this is why the symptoms were continuing. When I took on my own hydrogen peroxide, guess what hydrogen peroxide does? It kills E. coli. This is why my symptoms went away within 30 minutes of explosive diarrhea for 3 months. I drank 1 dose of hydrogen peroxide, and it all stopped. And then I just kept doing it every day.
Yeah. So he's just telling the story about how he got poisoned. You know what I mean? And then he did like he did diagnostics on himself to figure out what happened. Like he didn't know if it was a parasite or if it was fucking a fungus. Like he just kind of did a diagnostic, and he figured out that he got poisoned. Like I said, he's been talking some shit for a while. A while. Nah,
Yeah, exactly. It's
um,
shit. Sorry. He's been talking that.
X, no, it wasn't regular peroxide. It was food grade. I think food grade is like 35% hydrogen
No,
peroxide.
I think food grade is 3%.
No, I thought it was it 12%?
It could be 35%.
Oh,
Um,
you're breaking up again,
I'm not
D. Oh
100%.
my God.
It's
Yeah.
35%.
Yeah, it's 35%.
Shit. No way. Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, you back.
Okay, yeah, my bad.
Yeah, the regular shit
You're right
in
about
your
that.
cabinet. Yeah,
But you
the
know,
regular shit in your cabinet is 3%. Food grade is like 35%.
But you ain't supposed to be drinking the regular, right? That's why I wanted to make the distinction.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, that's why it's called literally food grade. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. And so that's actually I was gonna order some of that. I was gonna order some food grade hydrogen peroxide. Um, but all I could find was like 12%. I gotta figure out where to get it from. Kim,
It's not accessible like that.
huh?
It's not accessible like that.
I was looking on. What was I looking? I think I was looking at Amazon. Um, you
I've
said,
gotten some, Amanda Vollmer, right? She's a
yeah,
flat
yeah,
earther.
yeah, I like her, the yummy
Yeah,
doctor.
she's got a great marketplace online. I've gotten 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide from her, as well as many other amazing skincare products. I mean, you name it. Uh, but I'm wondering, excuse me, what do you have lined up after this guy? Like, is there a solution to this hysteria that he's like ringing the bell? He's like, I've been poisoned by my water delivery people. It's
So,
snake venom. It's arsenic. Like, is he telling you to charge the water? Like, stand there with a
so
spoon and like spin it because water gets charged by spinning it in your glass.
let me ask you this:
Um,
B. Do you
or
think?
just creating an intention like this water is healing. Boom, it's gonna heal
Right.
you. You know,
So
I'm
people,
just asking.
right? People attack problems from different perspectives, right? So, he speaks to people like myself who are more science minded in terms of, all right, if it's poisoned, then how do we goddamn it neutralize the poison? If it's fucking got bacteria in it, how do we neutralize the bacteria? You know what I'm saying? If it's got fucking fungus in it, how do we kill off the fungus? Like that. There are people who speak to kind of what you talk to, right? Who are like, well, you know what? It would through the power of meditation and intention, we can neutralize the ill effects of the water. Right? There are people like that. Actually, where's Chuck at? Chuck was here. Like when we talk about cancer, right? The first thing Chuck comes in and says is, well, the first thing you have to do is you have to let go of negative emotion. You have to forgive yourself for anything that's happened. You have to put your body in a state where it can release kind of negativity, right? So Chuck talks about that. Me, I go to, all right, well, shit, you're going to start with an ivermectin, fenbenzidol, goddamn protocol, right? So different people have different ways of approaching issues. And so he approaches things more like me, where I'm sure there are people who approach it just like you, right? And the things, I don't think there's a wrong way to kind of talk about it. And just because somebody doesn't talk about it the way I do, I don't be like, well, I don't want to hear that bullshit. It's like, I get you. Like, it's a different way to get to the same destination. You know what I'm saying? That's all. So I don't denigrate somebody because they don't say exactly how I would say it, right? Or do it exactly how.
Okay, no, I get you, but but the trajectory is not the same place. And
Um,
I think that's where different voices can call that out, almost like, I think there's some other voices in the chat, just chorusing shit. I get the red bar. But it's all good. I mean, look, I get it. I get that. And I keep getting the red bar. It's not fair. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. Um, yeah, no, I love this discussion, and I'm just wondering, like, what's your next? Is this is the finale? Because you had the Flexner report, which was astounding. I mean, I think it's so important to spotlight the origins of where we are now, the origin story of Western medicine.
Fact.
So, yeah, a big story, big shout out to Conspiracy University,
I know, right?
and you don't miss a beat, right? You don't miss a beat. It's just every week I'm walking the dogs and I'm like tuning in. I'm like, here you are, and
Fact.
yeah, big fan.
Thank you. So as somebody said, what did you say? Where can you get food grade hydrogen peroxide? You know what? It's not hard to find. There are lots of places that sell food grade. Um, I don't have one specifically. Like I said, I have to order some. But I have a you know what? Ethan gave me a PDF. Is Ethan here? He gave me a PDF of a book where it lays out how to use food grade hydrogen peroxide to like cure things. Like it's a book of cures using food grade hydrogen peroxide. Um, so yeah. Um,
Okay, well, just to throw something else in the ring,
mhm.
and being the science guy that you are, have you heard of DMSO?
I have some. So you know what? I use DMSO with chlorine dioxide. Like that shit is dope.
Have you ever used it with magnesium topically?
Um, yes, yes, I do.
Okay, yeah. So for the room, DMSO is diamethylene oxide, something, and it's a byproduct from making paper. So it comes from trees, and it was discovered in the 20s by a guy who realized, because it's a solvent, so it goes through, it's transdermal. It will go through right through your skin, which is there to protect you. So it will carry things through there, and it's very good for inflammation. And also just the mitochondria of a cell, just the functioning. Uh, we need certain minerals and elements to, including water. And when inflammation happens, it's the cells shutting down because cells have to be open and flowing for the body to be, working well. And when the cells shut down, but DMSO, as well as electromagnetic frequencies, and
Take the
I
DMSO
got the
by.
red bar. I'm gonna run.
You heard me? Hello, B, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. You said you take the DMSO by itself.
I don't do it internally. It's more
Oh, you
topically.
okay? Yeah, I'll take it internally. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's I'm still new in the world of DMSO, so I'm taking it slow. Also, because I'm a smoker and I know that it can uptake.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
right?
It
So
forces everything into your cells. So if yeah,
exactly. Like if you're on
whatever.
prescription medication,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you got to be careful. Okay. Yeah.
But I use it topically.
Oh,
I
sweet.
have a face cream that Amanda makes, which is amazing. And then there's a magnesium DMSO spray I spray over my liver nightly. And magnesium is really important for proper liver function.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty dope. All right, good shit. No, but DMSO, it's powerful as shit, and it's super cheap for what you get for what it does. So it's a couple things that are on my list. Um, so the 35% hydrogen peroxide is on the list. Methylene blue. So I haven't. So that's also on the list too, right? To check out methylene blue. Um, what else? It's something else. And then I'm getting into gadgets. So it's like a lot of gadgets. So you know about the Rife machine. Um, so I'm gonna get an ozone generator. My man Chuck was telling me about that. You ever had ozone before, B?
It's funny. I have some lip gloss that I got from a couple that have a company,
Mm.
and it's ozone, like it's ozone infused. But
Hey yo.
I don't know. I've looked into ozone machines, but I'm in California, and for some reason it looks like they might be banned here, which makes total
Oh,
sense.
they fucking heat. That's fucking wild.
Yeah, but no,
Yo.
ozone, I'm learning more about that. I don't know a lot, but it's a good direction for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
I'm gonna grab ozone.
hyperoxygenation.
Yeah, facts. So I'm gonna get an ozone machine, and then I'm gonna get because with the ozone machine, I think Chuck used the ozone machine to make like some colloidal silver, right? So it was like a 2-in-1 kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
colloidal silver is another gem.
yeah. So I'm getting into my gadgets phase. So I'm finna get like some gadgets where I'm gonna make some colloidal copper, some colloidal silver, maybe some colloidal gold. Get the ozone machine, maybe a Rife generator, like a Rife machine. I don't know. So we'll see. Um, cold plunge. Oh, Salo said he got ozone in his cold plunge tub system. Oh, that's pretty dope, bro. That's pretty
Yeah,
freaking.
it's supposed to be really good for the mouth too, for oral health.
No. Miss Watt said she Googled ozone generator and it's an air purifier. No, not at all. Not at all. It's a little
Yeah,
different.
it's a little bit on the alternative like spectrum of healing, uh, uh, and it takes some research. I'm at the tip of that,
Yeah,
ready to do a sleigh ride in.
yeah. So essentially, it's O3, right? So it's three oxygen molecules together. Um, so Chuck, when he came to the meetup, he brought his ozone generator and like you put it in water, and so it's a gas. Ozone is a gas, so you put it in water, and it smells like the rain. So exactly what it smells like when you go outside after the rain. That's you're smelling ozone. That's literally
It,
what it is.
negative ions.
Yep.
All right, hold
You're
up.
literally. Go
Wait,
ahead.
Lizbeth is in the room.
Yeah. She just got to Chile a couple hours ago.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I just saw her a couple rows above me, and I'm like, she's now on that journey.
Yeah, she is. So they're headed to Antarctica within the next day or two. So yeah, it's a thing. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna let y'all know. Hopefully, you know what? Hopefully, I'll treat myself to something over Christmas. I got to figure out exactly what it's going to be. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna treat myself to something over Christmas. Maybe one of the gadgets, or either a Rife machine, or ozone generator, or the Bob Beck machines. You heard about the Bob Beck device where you
No, I haven't.
yeah. So you electrify your um the blood cells, right? Like it's supposed to be really dope. So maybe to buy
Wait,
that
is that
device. I don't know.
PEMF? Pulse electric magnetic frequency therapy?
Maybe that might be
Yeah,
what it
that's the
is.
shit. That I've experienced
Yeah.
that. They use that on racehorses and stuff.
Do they?
Yes,
Yeah. So
that's
yeah.
yeah, that's some controlled electricity there.
It is. So I want to get one of those. So I'm gonna buy one over Christmas. I haven't figured out which one I'm gonna get, but I'm gonna get one of the things over Christmas. And I'll tell you guys about it and how I use it. All right. So we passed 5 hours, man. I'm overtime. I'm trying to keep the shows to like 5 hours. You know what I'm saying? I know you guys be getting tired of hearing me talk and ramble on. But we're back on Friday. 10 o'clock Eastern. Hopefully by that time, Miss Watts, you said rifle machine is a tens machine? No, rifle machine and tens and the rifle machine is way different. They way different. I think I have a tens machine around here somewhere. I have a tens machine here. But no, a rifle machine is with frequencies. 10 is with electrical pulses. Right. All right, so we're gonna see y'all on Friday. Remember, we're here at 10 o'clock Eastern. I think I should be cool. I think we're starting on time on Friday. All right, so we're here at 10 o'clock Eastern. A lot of stuff to talk about. Like things are unfolding daily. You said my Google is off, not finding. You gotta stop using Google, Miss Watts. Why are you using Google? You're killing me here. Miss Watts, are you not new here, are you? You don't have a pink ticket. Miss Watts, where are you at? Why are you on Google? You ain't even on DuckDuckGo, even which is fucking Google Lite. But why are you on Google? Get off of Google. Stop Googling shit. That's why you can't find shit. Every time I say something, I Googled ozone and this is giving me an air conditioner. Is that what you're talking about? No. Wait, I just Googled a rifle machine and they're showing me rifles? No. Knock it off. You know what I'm saying? So Claudette's saying Brave browser. Brave browser's okay, but I prefer Yandex. Stop using Google. Google into healthcare. Right, exactly. You've never seen this room before? Then why? Hold on, man. Do you have a pink ticket? I don't think you have a pink ticket. No, you have a pink ticket. Maybe you just joined today. It's fine. That's dope. But yeah, Miss Watts, no. Stop using Google. Yandex is the shit. Yandex.com. But just be prepared. It's Quan says it's the Wild Wild West. It is. Like all that shit you can't find on Google, go to Yandex. Type that shit in. They're gonna give you everything you want, and then they're gonna throw some porn on top of it. Like,
Yo, bro, you just can't slide that in there.
dude, I'm just telling you how it goes. Yandex is crazy. Whatever you're looking for, it's a porn version of whatever you're looking for in Russian. So Yandex is like Russian Google, right? And for whatever reason, Russians put porn with everything. You know what I'm saying? Go to yandex.com. So Brave browser if you want to keep it tame, but if you ain't scared, go to Yandex. You'll find everything you thought was going off the internet. It's on Yandex. The Yandex is the step up from the dark web. Just go to Yandex. You know what I'm saying? Look that shit up. All right, Miss Watts. So we're here. Conspiracy University is every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern. We do Conspiracy Cookout with the Tinfoil Family on Fridays, 10 o'clock Eastern. Right? It's the same content, same PhD level conspiracy talk. You know what I'm saying? With your conspiracy cousins, man. We here. I appreciate y'all hanging out with us. All right. So we had a tough week. We lost one of the homies on Friday, and a lot of people took it really hard. Um, but we here. All right. Like B said, you can damn near set your clock to us being here, man. Even though holidays coming up, we're probably gonna take a couple days off. but you know, it'll be all right. I'm gonna figure it out. I don't know yet, because y'all know how I am, man. Like, I'll be here and we won't be doing nothing, and I'll just be like, well, shit, I ain't doing nothing. Why don't we just start the show? Like, I'll do shit like that. Also, we're on TikTok on Mondays, so be sure to hang out with us on TikTok. I open up the rooms in here anyway, and you guys can just come in and listen. I think some of y'all came in and listened on Monday. So I opened up the painful truth, so you guys can listen to TikTok in case you don't have it. All right. So yeah, TikTok is Mondays. It's at around 10 o'clock Eastern, 10:30, somewhere like that. All right. It's whatever time I kind of get myself together. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Other than that, man, I appreciate y'all hanging out. Remember, to all my newbies, if you just got here, this is your first day with us. Remember Yandex. Stay your ass off of Google. All right. Other than that, man, I'm gonna see y'all. Oh, remember, blackistheuniform.com. Blackistheuniform.com. Yo, B, you made it through the pandemic without getting vaccinated, so you deserve a certificate of achievement. Everybody who made it through the pandemic without getting vaccinated, get your certificate of achievement mug. The link is up top at blackistheuniform.com. Right? It's got a diploma on it. So click on it, you can see the diploma. There's a diploma on it it was a certificate. You guys made it. So get yourself a present to signify that you made it through without getting vaccinated. And let everybody know they didn't get you. That's what the mug is for. All right? It's a certificate of achievement at blackistheuniform.com. Link up top. Check it out. It's a great gift. If you got people you got a spouse that didn't get it, family, cousins, all that shit, give them certificate of achievement from blackistheuniform.com. All right? I'm going to see y'all Friday, y'all. Peace.
To the cookout, but you need the right gear. Blackistheuniform.com, you can get it right here. We talk flat earth and mud floods. You might hear about the dome. No matter the topic, you just need something with the shield on. Blackistheuniform.com, where conspiracy analysts are at home. Blackistheuniform.com, where conspiracy analysts are at home.
Vigor Sport is love and light in a bottle, a CBD infused salve that rids the body of pain, arthritis, carpal tunnel, and muscle aches. There's no job too great for Vigor Sport. Headaches, muscle spasms, and menstrual cramps are a thing of the past. Vigor Sport is the Swiss Army knife of your medicine cabinet. Order your jar today at vigorforpain.com.